More gardeners need to turn into seed maniacs. Seeds are one of the most underused, underrated garden tools of modern gardeners.
Yeah, I want to talk about a phobia that gardeners have, a seed phobia. And that is, you have a package of seeds that cost you $8.99. You open the package, you want to control those seeds. And what I mean by that is you don't want them to get lost inside your garden. If you put seeds directly into the garden, it is a very, very uncomfortable situation. And the comfort, or the lack of comfort, is based on the fact that you don't know if your garden is going to just simply digest those seeds, if the seeds are going to germinate, if you're ever going to find them again. It's a big problem. A lot of times you have to get your seeds germinating in warm areas in northern climates. Here, I get seeds, they can go straight in the ground. I do worry about losing them in an entanglement, but I have the suspicion that I'm way ahead getting my seeds in the ground in places where they're going to stay, a permanent location, and it makes a big difference. So having a plethora of seeds really helps eliminate that phobia of not having to use plant pots, not having to use cement containers, not having to use growing squares, or whatever you want to call those types of materials, little plastic germinating trays. So by having this idea of having a lot of seeds for a lot of different areas, collecting seeds, I think most gardeners don't collect enough seeds. They don't trade with friends. They don't go to friends' houses and collect the seeds that are available in the fall or whenever they're available. So there is a big opportunity missed by most gardeners by not collecting seeds and not using them in their land beneficially. Yeah, I want to talk about a very interesting concept. And I learned that concept here because I have such thin soil and so little of it. So I had to come up with a concept how to make more soil. So there's certain plants in my garden that have helped me out to create green matter. And that word green matter is very important to me because green means a lot of energy to me. When I compost green matter, it's a lot quicker, and I think as long as the CO2 doesn't come out, it's a lot more energetic as well. So what I like to do is I like to observe in the garden which plants are prolific, which plants do incredibly well, which plants go to seed really quickly, and the plants that go to seed really quickly and very profusely, I use them to create green matter. So I have lots of plants in the garden, maybe 10 plants, from bok choy to parsley to nasturtiums. I have many plants that do incredibly well in this garden. So I use them to my advantage to create green matter. So it might sound very weird or odd, but I can create incredible amounts of green matter by using these plants over and over again. So I use them to my advantage to create green matter. So it might sound very weird or odd, but I can create incredible amounts of green matter by using these plants over and over again. If I bought a bag of alfalfa, let's say 500 grams, I can multiply that into 100 pounds of green matter. So there is this multiplication factor within seeds that we need to use to our advantage. If we can grow too much, it's better because we have lots of things that we can compost. Having the soil covered is really important, and working, super important. And if you can have this forward movement in your garden, it becomes very interesting in terms of how your soil is lifted up. The energy of your soil can be very powerful if you keep it growing, keep it composted, and you have this movement of life inviting more life to show up in your garden. Life is energy, and it has a really strong influence on your garden. It's really important to figure out a way how you can keep your ground covered, how you can keep your soil energetic. And I think these guys, germinating seeds everywhere in your garden are a big part of it. Having seed energy equals soil energy equals plant diversity. The seeds are very, very important. It is very dangerous because this can get very, very, very expensive. So you have to use the energy that is in your garden. If you use that energy that is in your garden, what I mean by that is the plants that are incredibly prolific, they will take over your garden and help you with covering your soil and creating green matter. Yeah, I want to talk about something that we really have to sort of grasp, and that is, let's call it soil availability or soil fertility. So if I left this soil, or even in the greenhouse here, if I left the soil on its own, it would cover over in about a month. You would have all kinds of green matter on top of the soil. Why does that happen? Well, the soil is of good quality, the soil is open enough for the seeds to get in, and life will take over great soil. It always happens like that. When you have good soil, life will take it over. So as a gardener, it's up to you to get your seeds into that ground before other seeds or weeds or whatever else it might be gets into the ground. So you're controlling what takes over your soil. By doing that, you're suppressing weeds, you're imposing your purpose onto your garden. So, for example, if I want to grow green matter, I will get those seeds into the ground. I don't really have to worry too much about weeds because I'll take everything that's growing. And it makes a difference who gets to your soil first. Is it you, the gardener, who's getting to the soil first? Or is it the weeds that are taking over? So remember, soil quality, soil availability, the openness of your soil will attract life regardless. So attracting life is a big part of gardening, but it's important for the gardener actually a lot of the times to get their seeds into the ground before life takes over. Yeah, so I picked a rainy day. I've got some very powerful seeds. We always think of slopes like this as being very hard to deal with. I look at it very differently. I use the power of seeds to retain steep slopes. So if you're capable of finding some very strong seeds that have lots of energy in them, then a slope like this can be retained with very little effort, very little money. And so what I basically do is I have 10 different seeds in here, and then these 10 different seeds are going to add a bit more diversity onto this hill. I've already put a huge amount of seeds into this hill. So this idea of using plant material or seed material to retain a slope is a very powerful method. If you look closely, you see all the ferns that have come and populated this slope. So when you make your soil available for green matter to germinate, to thrive, it will help immensely with retaining this dirt from coming down. So instead of spending money on retaining walls and all these things, use seeds. Seeds are just as powerful as cement blocks or retaining walls that are interlocking. The seed's roots are just as strong and just as powerful. So what I do all the time is I always pick from the different seeds and I put them close to each other. I don't put 10 of one seed. I mix it up nicely. And this soil is nice and wet, and it receives these seeds perfectly with absolutely no problem. My suspicion is that they will germinate within the first week. And that germination process will be such a big help for the keeping the soil in place. So if you're on a very low budget and you have slopes in your yard, always remember the power of seeds and the power of your soil itself, looking after the process of growing all kinds of plant material. Roots are incredibly powerful in retaining soil. They do an amazing job, and they do it very quickly. Like, you don't have to wait more than a couple of weeks for this to take over and to really retain the soil in place.